I mean, ate, slept, and drank Power Memorial every day for 4 years and beyond. Quite frankly, it's still a big part of who I am in terms of molding me. I can remember going to Power. My first day was with my dad. I was still in the. I guess I was in the eighth grade. I think I had to go for a test of some kind. I'm not really sure. And a placement test. I think is what it was. I had to go for. And we took the subway in, took the 7 line into 42nd Street. We got off at 42nd, then took the number 1 uptown to Columbus Circle. I remember walking out. And we really had not spent a great deal of time in the city, although born and raised in Queens. Going to Manhattan was like that was a field trip. And so my dad took me in. And that time, Power in 1979, 1975, 1976, it was still not a great neighborhood to be in outside of Lincoln Center, and the bustle of Central Park South and Columbus Circle. It was quite an education, just the subway ride to and from Power every day. But I've been walking down the street with my dad, going past Fordham University Law School, turning that corner. It was really impressionable to me. It was just, it really was just opening my eyes to so much as a 13-year-old, or I guess it was 13 or 14 at the time. One of my earliest memories of Power was my freshman year. I was in room 706. We were in the very top of the school, just below the brothers' quarters. We were the 7 flights of stairs every day. I used to remember. I used to be able to remember my locker number, my lock code. I can't remember anymore. But my first class was Latin, and I'd never taken a foreign language before. And unbeknownst to me, who was going to be teaching the class was Brother Jensen. And I remember my first day in class. He walked in, and you have to remember, Steve, I went to a co-ed Catholic high school taught by Dominican nuns and by women. Right. And here I'm going to a school where there are very few women in the school, and most of the teachers were brothers. And in walks this man who had the thickest, widest shoulders I'd ever seen, looked like a football player, and walked in with a short sleeve black shirt with the brother collar on. And he's African American, he's black, and he's an Irish Christian brother, But I had met Brother Jensen, I said earlier, in my 8th grade, was very impressed by him. He walked in as well with a briefcase, a black briefcase. And he walked up to the board. I guess those first couple of days, you had to sit in the assigned seat so they can get to know your name and everything. Right. And he starts to write, I don't know, something, usi, uamori, or miso si, so something on the board, And in my first day in class, lo and behold, I don't have a pen or a pencil. So I don't know anybody in the class. None of us knew each other, Right. And I asked the guy left of me, you got a pen or a pencil? No. You got to write, you got a pen or pencil. Tap the guy on the shoulder. Nobody has any pen or pencil on me. Brother Jensen catches me on the side of his eye, and he looks at me and he says, Mr. Crowley, why is it you haven't taken that which I have placed on the board and partaken that and placed it in your notebook? And I said, brother, I don't have a pen or a pencil. He goes, Mr. Crowley, you'll take yourself and your accoutrements and you will leave the room. Now, Steve, mind you, I did not know what accoutrements meant, but I did know he wanted me to take all my things and leave the room. That's what I knew. At least I assumed that much. And I was a pretty, I never got in trouble. I was in school, so it was pretty law-abiding. And we get outside. I'm outside the hallway there, and I'm out there for about 45 minutes to an hour, hoping no one comes by to yell at me. And Brother Jensen comes out after class is over, and he takes his index finger, he points it on my chest, and he says, Mr. Crowley, you will never, ever, 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 ever again forget your accoutrements when you come into my class. Is that clear? I said, it is, yes, brother. Huge welt to my chest. No one could see. So he said, and I'll see you later at basketball tryouts. So he was a really good guy, and someone who I really grew to love and respect. And Sorry to hear that he had gotten sick and then he passed away. But he left. He was one of the people who impressed me and had a great influence on me. The other teacher that I got to know a bit later was Mr. Bellino, who was the leader of the band after Mr. Mora had retired. And Mr. Bellino, Tom Bellino, was a great influence on me musically in terms of. I just thought the world of him. I thought he was a great musician and incredibly brilliant and smart to be able to compose and do all the things he did. But he also made a great impression on me. I still have fond memories of Mr. Bellino. So, yeah.
And is it true that you played at Alice Tully Hall when you were in the Power Orchestra?
We did, yeah. Oh, yeah. Every year, it was either Carnegie Hall or for me, it was. I guess the Carnegie Hall days were over. Every year we played at Alice Tully Hall in Lincoln Center. And one year we had a very special year. It was the 2000 show of the Ed Griffin Show. And Merv Griffin. And the Power Band was asked to play at the at that show. And I remember this day. It's da 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 da. And I'll never forget that. And we marched down the theater on live or on television. I know it was taped live, but I believe Willie Stargell was there. And one of the guys from Starsky and Hutch was there, the blonde guy from Starsky and Hutch. And I can't remember who the other guests were, but it was Merv Griffin's 2000 show. And there came the Powell Memorial Marching Band. You have to remember, I don't think there were any other marching bands in Manhattan. And we would, so there was slim pickings, I guess, so there, but we ended up, we would march all around the school and all around the city. It had to be something for people to watch. And, in the concrete canyons, and you have, these drums blasting off and trumpets blaring, throughout the streets or marching around. And it was intense because, you look at a marching band and you think it's not that big a deal, right? But you had to be in shape to be able to play and march and do all this at the same time and do all the routines. It was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but I enjoyed every year of it. And I think, I said I was a late bloomer to basketball and the sports, really, so, I think I started to really get it in my junior, maybe my senior year in high school in terms of sports. But music is something that came to me very, very easily and very, I had a bit of a talent for it and a knack and an ear for it. And after leaving Power, I had prior to leaving Power, I had another uncle was a priest, and he taught me how to play a couple of chords on the guitar, and fell in love with the Beatles, and got into college, and it was all Bruce Springsteen, John Mellencamp, and the Stones, and got myself into a rock and roll band. I was gonna make it big time. A couple of Irish bands. Played an Irish traditional music band, and got into a funk fusion band called Coast to Coast. It was all original material, predominantly black band. And here's this big 6'5" white Irish kid from Woodside, Queens, playing rhythm guitar and singing background vocals. We made a couple of records. I had a blast, learned a lot about recording, but that was an extension of my experience at Power, I think, too, in terms of my exposure to different musics I probably wouldn't have heard in Woodside, Queens, maybe in Malloy or Clancy High School. But you go to Power and you're exposed to so much more culturally, I think, that it was second nature. But yeah, I always got a kick out of my dad. He was a New York City detective, and I think he was retired at the time. But he really gave me a lot of free reign to explore that side of me as well. And every week I'd be in the studio twice a week, doing that, going to school at the same time, and just learning what I wanted to do in life, I guess, and I guess my last recollection of playing in that band was in 1984. I remember opening up one of my father's cars I was driving and putting my amplifier and my guitar into the back trunk on top of posters of my uncle, who was running for Congress that year in 1984 when Geraldine Ferraro ran for vice president of the United States. We were in her district. And that really was the real big start of my political career. I guess, Steve, you can say it did start at Power when I ran for class president in my senior year. Rod Mullen who was a year ahead of me, was the president the year before, and God rest his soul. Rob was a good guy. He was a great athlete and a real great super leader as well. And people were drawn to him. He was magnetic, I think, and I think a lot of his classmates of 1979. My observations were that they were drawn to him. I kind of wish I was in that class sometimes, either in that class or the year after when his brother Chris was there, and Mario Ellie, and
Wow.
all those Tommy Dawkinson and I came together in class of '80. But there were a lot of great guys that I was exposed to around at the time, and Jerry Erasme, and just so many people that Pat Dunleavy was in my year, and Pat and I have remained friends ever since. I remember Bob Diffley, who I was in band with, and my good buddy, we were like Mutt and Jeff, Kevin Fitzgerald from Bay Ridge in Brooklyn. He came all the way. He passed away a couple of years ago. When he played the clarinet, I played the trumpet. He was blonde haired, about 5'6" or 7", and here I am, 6'5". When I had more hair, and we would just kick it around and had a great experience together, kind of growing up. It was really just something special. But that was power. It was a mix and of people from all over, and Puerto Rican kids, black kids, Italian kids, obviously Irish kids, Asian kids. It was just, it was just a hodgepodge of just so many different cultures and backgrounds. It was wonderful.
Yep.